Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Call Layim La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shamalak Yahweh, Bashem Kakadash, double honor to the apostles and elders, millstone, peace, citation, the hopeful light, Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be NYPD officers are quitting their jobs more than ever. And title of the New York Post, pretty much an article that was published on June 11, 2022. It says NYPD Exodus police on pace to quit, retire in record numbers. So some 524 cops have resigned and 1,072 have retired as of May 31st. Yeah, it says more than 1,500 NYPD officers have either resigned or retired so far this year, on pace to be the biggest exodus of officers since the statistics have been available, the Post has learned. Some 524 cops have resigned and 1,072 have retired as of May 31st, NYPD pension stats obtained by the Post show. The 1,596 total is a 38% spike from the same period in 2021, when 1,159 cops called it a career, and a staggering 46% climb from 2020, when 1,092 left the force by the same date. Anti-cop hostility, bail reform, and rising crime have fed into frustration among the NYPD rank and file, according to one NYPD officer who recently fled for greener pastures at a Long Island police department after 6.5 years with the New York's finest. Anti-cop hostility, rising crime has stoked frustration among NYPD. The city, in quotation, the city is out of control, especially since bail reform, according to the former Queens cop, who asked to be identified only as Joe. The mantra now is get out while you still can. Joe's patrol gig, in quotation, got worse and worse over time, he said. Quotation, the last few years, so many people had been leaving and manpower was so low that you go to work and you answer 25 to 30 jobs a day and you're burnt out by the end of the day, he said, adding there was no time for law enforcement because it would be radio run, radio run, radio run all day long. Even when he made an arrest, in quotation, they were back in the precinct picking up their property the same day. So it's a current roster of 34,687 officers that dropped from 2019, where there were 36,900 officers on the force. Quotation, residents would ask, why does this keep happening? And I would have to explain to them, this guy is going to be locked up tonight, but tomorrow night he's going to come down your block again. He's going to be on the same corner. You're going to see him in the same stores committing crimes. I wish there was more we could do, but we can't, Joe said. The stunning pension stats are at odds with NYPD's own figures, which show 1091 cops set to leave as of May 31st, with 494 resigning and 594 retiring. Overall, the current roster of 34,687 is a significant drop from 2019, when there were 36,900 officers on the force. Says President of Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Pat Lynch, warned the staffing crisis could impact public safety. Officers typically work 20 years or more to collect their full pension, which can equate to 50% of their final average salary. The data obtained by the Post shows those who are, in quotation, running their time or using accrued days off before they exit. Those cops are still counted in NYPD's own stats as being on the force. In quotation, last year, the number of cops who quit before becoming eligible for their full pension was the highest in 2 decades. This year, we are on pace for the highest ever recorded, the source said. Joe, who will ultimately get only a prorated fraction of his pension, knows or of at least 4 other NYPD pals who left the city for Long Island Police Department. Quotation, cops who made the move before me said it's a decision you have to make. You can't turn this job down. The quality of life is better. They treat you more like a human being than a number, Joe said. Adding the advice was also to take other civil service tests, explore all options, look out of state, Florida, Texas, Arizona. My friends were all going to Port Authority, not South Suffolk, MTA, police department. Joe said he checks in every day with friends back at his former Queens precinct, and morale has plummeted further. In quotation, when I asked how are things, the response is horrible, worse than when you left, and it's only been 6 months, he said. The mass departures will have repercussions, law enforcement said. Quotation, the NYPD is sliding deeper into a staffing crisis that will ultimately hurt public safety, Police Benevolent Association Patrolman Union President Patrick Lynch said. Quotation, low pay, inferior benefits, and constant abuse from the city council and other anti-cop demagogues, I think that's how you pronounce it, has pushed attrition to record record highs, Lynch added, noting the department, in quotation, is struggling to fill academy classes. In quotation, we need more cops working more hours to turn the tide of violence, but there is only so much overtime they can squeeze out of the cops who remain, he said. Wow. So right there, I'm just going to bring out some scriptures and make, this lesson more edifying. It says the second Ezra 15, verse 16. And this is a prophecy that's really starting to take its place, at a small scale. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. And some of those officers mentioning that they getting low pay on the force, bro, because eventually they're thinking about defunding the police, and stupid ass people in the world is thinking that that's a good idea, especially the stupid ass woman of our nation, which they love using the cops against their man, to to support their their feminist power and their the gynocracy. That's also what they like to push for, So it's like, when you look at it on a lot of articles mentioning about defunding the police and shit, and how they're working on doing that because of police brutality, and eventually that's going to lead to less cops over time, and then seeing the rise in crime, some people will just be like, they're not going to think about being a cop anymore, and some cops themselves is just going to think of like, yo, they want to protect their families from certain dangers that's increasing over time, and they're going to eventually quit the force, or maybe call for maybe to work for part-time or so, at least, so they could have more time they could spend with their families or so. And when you're doing a job like that, they're gonna have you working not only full-time, but motherfuckers gonna have you doing overtime, and one thing about those cops is like, they are not really around areas where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be around areas to prevent crimes, but they're more likely to respond to crimes. So, you find them being around areas where crimes are less likely to happen, and they just be on their phones and just chilling, getting paid by the hour and shit. So, they respond to the crime like when they get a call. They come there like 30 minutes or an hour it takes them to pull up to the scene. And then it's like, when it's coming to these cops, like they you know focus on the little things, such as like, you know things that where they could just like let it slide, like people doing fare evasion or so, the little crimes that is not even harmful against humanity or so. Like, you're not robbing nobody, you're not, you know invading anyone's home, things of that nature. So they worry about the little things, right? And mind you, you got serial killers out there, you got people getting um killed in broad daylight, and they're not out there doing their job. you know Places where they should be at all times, you know they're not really there, and sometimes they come there late, to the scene. So, and pretty much like we live in a society where it's becoming like the wild wild west, like, and eventually it's only gonna get worse, and it's gonna be a dog eat dog world. A lot of these police officers, even amongst our own people, they're gonna get the worst judgment for being fucking for being coons, and basically for following after Esau's ways, because scriptures will tell you not to envy thy oppressor nor choose none of his ways, you know because even though you've been working in this man's system for so long, doing a job that, you know where you think that you escape the curses because, you're working in a white man's system, and you know and he sees you being an oppressor to your own people. And then basically, like, now, where you serve so long in the system, eventually you still getting oppressed by your own coworkers, or not even by your own coworkers. Sometimes you're just getting oppressed by other, you know, Edomites in the police force. You know, so it's like showing you right there and then, like, you're not safe. And every time you take off the clothes, the uniforms, you just like everyone else. You know. So, pretty much like that's what's coming to this country, which is gonna be like sedition amongst men. It's just gonna get worse. You already got niggas on the small levels shooting at cops in broad daylight. That happened like around Far Rockaway, which is like, I think it was on Beach 60th or 50 something street, which is like a couple blocks from me. Which there'll be like a few stops away from the A train, or like you just drive down there, like, and it'll be like a few minute drive. That shit is crazy, you know. And cops know they know these things, and they're starting to notice, like, yo, it's just getting worse. So a lot of them are just starting to quit their jobs and try to get a better one or so, because they just know that working at NYPD for the most part ain't it. Yeah, because it's almost like another Chicago. Seeing people getting judged in broad daylight, in a in an area where there's still people around to witness it, and niggas is not even face covered. They're not even fully covered, covering their face with a ski mask or so when they're about to do these things. A lot of the times they just do it, which is, I find it stupid, because it's like they're not completely planning this shit, So last scripture for our close out is it says, the morning, Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 7, the morning is come unto thee, O thou that dwellest in the land. The time is come, the day of trouble is near, and not the sounding again of the mountains. Now will I shortly pour out my fury upon thee, and accomplish mine anger upon thee, and I will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense thee for all thine abominations. My eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will recompense thee according to thy ways and thine abominations that are in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I am the Lord that smiteth. Yeah. You know, the Most High is a killer too, you know. So he's the reason why a lot of these things is happening. You know, a lot of deaths, a lot of wickedness on the earth as well. And he has judgments for these wickedness, for these wicked things. It says, behold, the day, behold, it is come. The morning is gone forth. The rod hath blossomed, pride hath budded. Violence is risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them shall remain, nor of their multitude, nor any of theirs, neither shall there be wailing for them. Exactly. You know? That's pretty much what's gonna take place very soon. You've seen a lot of cops is quitting. Can you imagine the Jacob's trouble? Like when society's completely out of order, you know? Exactly, you know? And that's woman's protection right there. Showing you that we coming into a time of, you know, where Isaiah 4:1 is going to be established soon, shortly, where several women is going to be seeing that man. And they're going to try to flock to a man of the Lord, because a man of the Lord going to be as precious as fine gold in that day, you know? So, with less cops being on the force, you best believe that more crimes is going to happen and more judgment is going to take place upon this earth. But with that, hope I made the lesson edifying. Let's give all glory, praises, honor to Adonai Yahweh, Bashim Shamalak Yahushua, Bashim Kadash, double honors, apostles, and elsewhere, Milson, peace, I teach, hope for let. Yabashim Shabbat Bakashash, Shalak Koryam, Arawam Yam Waka Wayam Wa, Papa Shalom.